All right, it's time for our guest segment presented to you by Ally. Ally does so much for this podcast, been a great partner of mine, a great ally of mine. Ally is an ally, Mike. We got a great guest for you today, Jeremy Mayfield, come to the show. We've talked about getting Jeremy on for years, but really never had any kind of contact with him, didn't know how to get a hold of him. Saw him out at a dirt track a couple months ago and asked him if he wanted to do it. He said, yeah. So here he is. After doing some research, we know he's out there, and he's out there and
What do you mean by out there?
Well, he's still communicating with media and so forth. He's done some other podcasts and things like that. So we know he's going to come in here, going to tell his side of the story. He's got a crazy story, man. I mean, you know, everybody, I think everybody knows this story, but pretty profound what he went through.
Everybody knows the story. I think everybody has an opinion. I don't think anybody's going to really change their opinion. I don't think that Jeremy even cares to try to change people's opinions. Yeah. So, but we at least get to have a conversation with him and just kind of hear what he has to say. So that's what this is about.
All right, man. So let's just get right to it. Is Jeremy here, Matthew? Let's get him in the room. Jeremy Mayfield on the Dale Jr. Download.
NASCAR says it found methamphetamines in a test sample taken from Mayfield on July 6th.
And saying he's going to fight this to the finish, and he fiercely denies these claims.
Says she saw Mayfield use meth many times over the past 7 years, saying he doesn't trust NASCAR or its drug testing company.
It was the question everyone wanted answered. What was the substance that Jeremy Mayfield tested positive for? And Ryan McGee broke the story today. And, of course, Jeremy's contention is that a combination of Claritin D and Adderall led to a false positive. Now, according to the sources you've spoken with the authorities on this matter, is this possible?
A judge issued a temporary injunction on Wednesday that lifted Jeremy Mayfield's drug suspension, saying he is free to race.
NASCAR spiking drug tests? That's what Jeremy Mayfield and his attorneys say.
If I was sitting here guilty, first of all, I wouldn't be fighting it, because I know it's going to be a tough fight no matter what happens.
It's the latest round in what's become a very public battle over Mayfield's racing career.
NASCAR has said they will test Mayfield if he attempts to qualify for a race. Mayfield said he would gladly submit to the tests.
They came to his home yesterday with a search warrant looking for stolen property. They said they found it along with drugs and at least 50 guns.
Jeremy Mayfield tested positive.
Why would NASCAR do that?
Why wouldn't they?
Now tonight, Mayfield. I really don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Why would NASCAR do something out on $8,000?
Our sport.
For some, you got to imagine hard to believe that NASCAR would go to these lengths to indict one driver.
It probably would be hard to believe. But when it all comes out, you'll believe it.
NASCAR claims Jeremy Mayfield has failed another drug test.
Now, Ryan, just to clarify, what you're saying is that it is possible, but unlikely. Yes.
You know, Mayfield is contesting what NASCAR found on this July 6th test that has now come back with methamphetamine, as you said. NASCAR CEO into this. He's contending the actual substance abuse policy, the test, how NASCAR conducts this test. And so it has just really gotten ugly, and I don't know how this thing is going to end, but it's going to take a while, and it sounds like Jeremy's ready to go down in a blink.
There he is.
You don't seem to age. You look the same as you did back in 2000.
I haven't been doing anything to age. Not doing much, but yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think everybody here looks the same. You look the same.
Yeah. Trying.
I don't think so. I think
feel
you're
like
doing
you're
better.
going to eventually just fall off a cliff.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So, man, how you been doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
Things are good. Staying busy.
Yep.
Working a lot.
Yep. I've been trying to run my dirt car a little bit, just playing around with that. And
I was wondering.
And like you see me at Millbridge, been helping good friends of ours out there, the Bradshaws, and helping them get racing and get started.
You still drive?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I want to drive more, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Just trying to. I'm building a new car and trying to get it all ready, and I'm gonna probably run like 4 or 5 races this year.
Where at?
Hopefully. Like Gaffney, Livonia, Georgia, and just down that area.
Would you?
Charlotte.
Why dirt cars?
I don't know. I just like them. I always wanted to after I got out of racing, cup racing and all that stuff, just go dirt racing. Just have fun and go back to like it used to be, and just slide around and have fun. And I think the dirt late models are pretty neat as far as the way they work and all the suspension and all that stuff, and just trying to want to make that one of my goals to get in there and start winning races in dirt late model.
I saw about 5 or 6 years ago that you're messing with a modified, right? So
Right.
you ran a little bit of modifieds. What all, I guess, since you got out of cup racing, what all have you done behind the wheel?
The modified deal, and I've run a couple late model races and stuff like that. Like
Late model stock?
No, just like the supers or the pro late models.
Okay.
I ran in Jennerstown last year for a guy named Mark Smith up there. But the funnest thing I've done in my whole career is probably the modified.
Really?
I love that thing.
Whose
man.
car was that?
It was it belonged to some guys that started the J2 thing. When we done that, and
What is the J2 thing?
well, Jeremy, the second time around, basically, just whatever it was, we just come up with some kind of deal, they did. So it was a lot of fun, but that's probably the best, the most fun I've had, really,
Kind of like Chance too.
in my whole career.
Well,
yeah.
So but you only ran how many races?
We run a couple years, in the Smart Series or whatever it was, and then I think they're still running, but
They are.
Then those guys just kind of, how it goes. They went away and then couldn't afford to keep
team.
running, and yeah.
Okay.
Do you still got it? Are you good?
No, I don't still have it.
You don't
oh,
have
yeah,
it?
me got it. I thought you were talking about the modified. Yeah.
No.
yeah.
Do you got it in terms of the, can you get it done?
I feel like I can. I'm not sure when that point comes where you can't get it done, whatever it is. I think, you probably feel the same way. You feel like you can get it done anytime, but I'm not sure where I'm at as far as being good or whatever, especially in the dirt cars or whatever, but, I'm having fun and I like doing it, so I feel like I can.
When did you start driving dirt cars?
Probably a couple years ago,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
Have you won?
We won one race so far,
Yeah.
and I need
It's
to win
hard.
more. It is, man. It's really tough, and that's something that keeps me going. Is I want to win so bad and get to where I know and understand the cars, where I can start winning. Winning races, and it's like starting all over again.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything you do.
Where'd you win?
At Livonia, Georgia.
And
So-
did you have them covered, or did it go right down to the end? How'd you win it?
We had them covered that day, so that made it a lot easier on me. But I tell you, it's a tough deal. No matter what you run in this day and time, it's always it just seems to me like it's just the whole competition part of every series you run in is tough. You know.
So
And,
where do you keep your car?
I got a shop in Vail, North Carolina.
Where's
Right-
that? What town's that? I've
Vail.
never heard of that.
I know it's right below Hickory, North Carolina.
Below Hickory.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So close.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
About 40 minutes from here.
So tell me about your shop. What's there?
Pretty much just about some old race stuff and stuff like that. And I
Like
got
what?
let's see. I got a couple of my old late models, like my first late model I ever had.
Really?
I got it, yeah, I got it. Yeah, the first one I
The
built.
one that you run
Yeah.
at Nashville?
No, this was before then. This was 1986 or 87.
You got
so
it.
I got it.
What's it look like?
Don't look good right now, but we're gonna restore it and make it look better. But and I got a couple of my dirt cars, the stuff I've been working on there, and that's pretty much it. And got 4 pigs actually. So
Yeah.
I got some pigs
What
outside
for?
just for having fun. I just kind of rescued them, and now I'm a pig farmer, I guess. But
That was random as hell.
I know,
Jerry.
I know.
Like,
Late
you were talking
models to
about cars.
pigs.
Hey, I know how that works. Like,
Right.
How does that work?
well, I mean, I've got 4 buffalo just randomly
That's
hanging
right.
out.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's
It
about
just
as bad
happened. I didn't want that, but it just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Clint Boyer had a pig, and but it ended up on the plate.
On the
right.
grill.
Yeah, I'm not gonna eat mine. They're supposed to be like potbelly pigs, but they turned out to be. They look like wild boar now, so they're gotten big. I'm not sure what they were to start with, but they've gotten pretty big.
They start tearing up stuff eventually, don't they?
Yeah, they're not bad. They're pretty cool. They're laid back, but they got the tusk and all that stuff. You know. Yeah, if you see it, it looks like a wild boar.
Mess
Right
you
there.
up.
Yeah.
So they will.
I
Get
know.
after you. Don't piss
I
him
know
off.
Oh yeah.
So
What'd you say? Don't piss a pig
don't.
off. Right?
If he's got tusk, it might get you.
Right. He'll chase you. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
I always get my buddies out there. I'm like, hey, come here and check this pig out. And I got one named Eddie, and actually it was supposed to be a female. And it was Betty when we first started. Then we found out it was a male. 'Cause it's hard to tell the difference there. So I said, well, what's close to Betty Eddie? So we call him Eddie now. But
that's funny.
yeah, you get somebody out there like this, and you make these certain little sounds, and it kind of gets him stirred up, and he'll chase you, of course, a lot. But I like people who go out there and get
Are you?
buddies.
Is that where you spend most of your time? Is at the shop?
Yeah, pretty much every day. Yeah.
Are you run a business
Yeah.
out of there?
Not really. We just just kind of doing my own deal right now. So I'm still kind of searching for what I want to do, and I got some things in the works that we're going to do out of there. But nothing's kind of came through. Quite
I know
yet.
over the years, like just doing some research, you were in and out of different types of businesses or trying to create businesses.
Right.
You were stripping wire or something, or precious metals.
Right.
What was all that?
That was a fun deal. We did pretty good at it. We were just it's back when copper and all that stuff was going really good, and I was even doing that when I was racing. Kind of doing the piddling with it. So yeah, I got into it in a big way. Had a guy come in, had some money that pretty much backed the program, and we were buying copper from the government like 100,000 pounds at a time, and even more than that, and then bring it back to the shop. That we had it delivered, and then we strip it. Then sell it as a good copper. So
yeah,
it's pretty good business. Yeah.
And you were doing like cars, buying bulk used cars.
Yep, buying cars,
and stripping them.
Yep, stripping those,
and then selling the good parts.
Yeah, recycling them and selling some good stuff, and then smashing the other parts of it. So
interesting.
That's kind of what I've always done. Just kind of put on everything, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So nothing straight up solid yet. Where I'm really enjoying it, and really like it. But I've kind of been in and out a lot of things like that.
So I saw the other day. You might have been you, but somebody was selling one of them miniature dirt wedge cars that you built, because you built like a handful of them at one time. You had a little, like me or a couple other drivers, you built a little dirt track on your property, and you built these cars, and they were like a quarter scale dirt wedge outlaw. Right.
Yep.
How many of them did you build?
We probably built like probably 10, something like that total. And then I just kind of got out of it, and then I wanted to turn it into a series.
I know.
And
so with Millbridge going like it's going, and the outlaw carts and all that, it struck me like, I wonder why Jeremy didn't try to get this fire back up. Because there'd be some people that would buy these things if you could put a series together.
Yep. And I thought about that seriously, and there's a guy I guess a series that's out there now that's actually doing that.
Right. But it's in the Midwest, right?
No, they race some in Gaffney and Georgia and places like that. They've been around here, but not like at Harris Speedway they run there. But every time I see them, I'm thinking, man, I should have done that.
You should have. You still can.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean,
because you made them carts, you designed them, built them, right?
Yep, sure did. And it's I figured that's a good way to get the next step up. For a driver who's running Millbridge or something like that, they can jump into a little quarter scale or half scale late model and race those, and I just figured that'd be another little stepping stone. So.
Was that you that had that one for sale on the internet the other day?
No, it wasn't me, but I like to see which one you're talking about.
It was very cool. It had that. It had the 19 on it or something.
Oh yeah.
It had some. I could tell it was one of yours because it had some of the things from your Cup car on it.
Right. Yep.
And have you sold them then? Have you sold some?
I sold them. Yeah, I sold them.
You sold them all.
Yep. And,
I got it.
It's weird because somebody will always come along and, no matter what you got, and want to buy it. So
somebody still ask about it, like me.
Yeah, right. Want them. But no, I just ended up selling them. Just
I got it.
Wasn't messing with them anymore, and just figured I'd get rid of them. So
yeah, I was thinking, I was like, man, that'd be something you could get into, because Jimmy Elledge, bought QRC or whatever it's called.
Right.
He bought that business, and then the Phantom guy started building carts as well. So there's different types of chassis. And that's right up your alley, man.
Yeah,
and this stuff's it's as big as it's ever been at Millbridge and around here.
I can't believe how big Millbridge has gotten. All the Carters out there and all the outlaw racers now, I guess you call it. But I'd like to still do it. Maybe we can get together and do it together or something.
Yeah, that's where I saw you about a month ago. We was out at the dirt track somewhere. What track was that?
That was Mountain Creek.
Yeah, Mountain Creek.
Yep.
I always forget the name of that place.
Yeah.
And I saw you out there, and I was like, hey, man, you want to come on my show? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, and
Let's do it.
I really appreciate that too. Coming down and talk to me, and I haven't seen anybody. It's been kind of like weird. I've been out and about, but just I haven't seen all the guys I've raced with and been a part of forever. And it was good seeing you.
It was good to see you too.
Yep.
And you look good, man.
Well, thank you.
You've been taking care of yourself.
Yep.
So I know that when I go out and about, I don't see many guys out there, but when you kind of got shut down, you weren't going to the racetrack anymore. I doing some, listening to some other podcasts you've done over the years and stuff. It was like all your relationships, all your friendships, most of them, except for the ones in your inner circle, came to an end.
Right.
I mean, what was that like?
That's probably the toughest part of all of it, and now that you said it like that, that's pretty much what happened. Like everything just stopped, and as you can imagine, you got your race team here and all of your stuff, and just imagine if today or tomorrow it just come to a dead stop, and then it was like they just put a wall up where you couldn't see out nowhere, and everybody you knew and all your employees and all this stuff were gone, and here you sit, and no podcast going on or nothing, and that's kind of what it was. That's the hardest part, is I didn't get a chance to say bye or anything, or even say anything to anybody. It just kind of just come to a screeching halt, and other than that, that's probably the hardest part to deal with, just by not being around and not, doing something I've done every day of my life since I was born, pretty much,
You're right. You had kind of like been out of sight, and then you showed back up, I think, at an SRX race. Mm-hmm. Was that right?
Yeah, that was at Nashville last year, so went to that.
What led to that? Because and I'm curious if you were concerned about how you would be received when you come back in a very much public way, right?
Right. Yeah. That was probably. I don't know why, but it just seemed like that was one of my hardest things to get through. And one was because Ray and I, the relationship we had and everything else. But we kind of amended that, last year or year before that. We talked and said, okay, let's put all this behind us and forget about it. It's gone too far. And he apologized to me and I apologized to him, so we felt like we were back on the neutral grounds. And he actually invited us to come to the race, and Nashville was one of them. So.
How did y'all get to the making amends part? Like, did you reach out to him? Did he reach out to you? Did y'all run into each other?
No, it's kind of weird. I think Twitter's what started it, with back and forth on Twitter, and then I ended up calling him, and he called me back, and we just started talking again. So
you did call Twitter, notwithstanding, but you eventually placed a phone call to him, and he answered.
Yeah, oh yeah, good. And or if he didn't, he called me back. So we ended up talking, and and we thinking about Ray and I, we had a kind of a weird relationship. It started off bad, and then we got really good, throughout the years, and then ended up bad, and to be able to talk and, both of us get that behind us and, then go to that, like you said, SRX race and as one of his guests, that was pretty cool, and so I've kind of, just left all that behind and trying to move forward from there. But it was certainly a tough deal, showing up and not knowing, it's the first time I'd seen him forever, and anybody really. But I seen Bill and Bobby Labonte and everybody.
How were you walking in there thinking?
I didn't know what to think. Because one of the things is that I haven't changed like as a person, and I know they haven't. But I was perceived in a different way. After all that. And so I didn't know what to expect. But as soon as I seen Bill Elliott, and Chase and all those guys, everybody was just like the old days. Just like normal, just like you and I when I seen you and we started talking, but I wasn't sure, going into it, I was like, this could go, good, bad, or ugly or something, who knows,
Yeah.
But it was a good feeling.
I have to ask, everybody listening is going to want to know, do you think you'll get an opportunity or an invite to drive in that series?
I want to, I'd like to,
I think that would be like the most easiest route for you to have any, be back in any type of competition and I'm sure the fans or people that would love to see you out there.
Right, and that's something I'd like to do. I thought I'd talk to Ray about it.
I was going to say, I'm sure you asked Ray,
right.
like, hey, what's the deal?
Right, and then Hawk came on, and I said something to him about it, and I know they got to do what they got to do for whatever purposes or however that all goes down over there, but would certainly love to do it. I feel like that would have been a good way to, if I'm going to end my career in racing, that'd be a good way to do it.
Put a period on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. So, man, we'll just dive right into it. You went through some very, very difficult things at a point in your career when you were trying to get your own team started. NASCAR said you failed a test going into Richmond. I went down that timeline. Hadn't really thought or dug into that since I remember it happening.
Right.
And so digging into all this and watching I don't remember. I didn't know that it was so drug out and so many back and forths. There was the media would go to NASCAR, the media would go back to you, the media would go back to NASCAR, and then in the courts, it was one would make a move, the next one would make a move, y'all would make a move, NASCAR would make a move, and this was going on and on and on and on and on for a long, long time.
Right.
Eventually, NASCAR said you failed a second drug test. You were at that time then trying to go get your own independent test done as well. I know this is over 10 years ago. I know that I know all the details and all the information probably aren't fresh on your mind. I know you've probably wanted to put this behind you and forget about it, which I don't blame you. Nobody knows for sure, right? But you and a couple other people in this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And we're not here to debate the facts or get some sort of new confession or anything like that.
Right.
The one thing, though, that sticks out to me when I read all this stuff, everything you went through, the raid, past the raid, everything, was how even today you are stern and strict in your belief of how this went down, and your truths have not wavered from the very first moment. And there were some times, though, like you were like, I ain't doing road to recovery because I didn't do nothing.
Right.
I ain't doing that because I didn't do nothing. You were against, like they were like, hey, you could end this if you would just do what we say. You're like, well, then I would be admitting guilt. I'm not guilty, right?
Right.
You had that stance throughout the whole thing, and you lost everything. Did you know? And looking back on it, like you died on that hill. Your career died on that hill, and you were hard-headed.
Yeah.
And I wonder now, like as you look back on it, like what would you have done differently, or would you have done it? Are you glad that you were that staunch in your beliefs and like you went up against the man, you know what I mean? You were pretty much fighting a losing battle because they could have went as hard as they wanted to go, as long as they wanted to go. They were even if they were wrong, they were never going to admit it, right?
Right.
If that was the case, but like what do you feel about it now in terms of how hard-headed you were about your position and how you stuck to your guns there?
Well, when you say hard-headed, I do feel like I was hard-headed in a lot of ways on that, but that's what I believed in. That's what I believed, and I told him day one, this is how simple it could have been. All right, I was taking Adderall. I didn't know Adderall was a bad thing. I didn't know, and I didn't know that we could not take it because there was no list and there wasn't nobody. They just said when you start taking something, as you remember, I'm sure the meeting we had, then to let us know when they tested, if we got tested. So that's what I did, and I was thinking that at the time that, okay, I got a doctor's prescription here, everything's right, everything's supposed to be like it is, and all of a sudden, they say I'm positive on a drug test. Well, I'm going through the procedure just like they said. Hey, yeah, I'm taking Adderall and I take Claritin D, and every once in a while, not very many, and that's what it was. And I was hoping that they would say what they should have said is, okay, we don't want you taking Adderall anymore or Claritin D, whatever it was, which was on my physical every year. I took that, and it didn't work out that way, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, well, why wouldn't I feel like I've done everything right? Why wouldn't you just say, Jeremy, we don't want you taking it anymore? And I would not take it. I don't take it now, Just for that reason, I stopped taking it probably a month or two after that, after it all went down, and because it wasn't doing anything for me, and supposedly I was, according to Dr. Black, was getting, pumped up for qualifying or whatever he said it was, but stimulated or whatever, but that's not the case at all, So the way I looked at it was, okay, either I can sit here and go to rehab or whatever they want me to do, the road to recovery, over taking something my doctor prescribed me. It just didn't make sense to me. And then I thought, well, the justice system, I didn't want to fight it. First of all, we went and sat down with them and said, hey, this
sit down with who? With
NASCAR. I think Steve O'Donnell and a couple of Dr. Black and everybody that was involved. And we said, we don't want to go through this. We just tell us what you want us to do. Well, and Dr. Black was stern on, well, you need to go to road to recovery and this, that, and the other. And at the time when I asked him, let's back up a little bit. When he first talked to Dr. Black about it, he said, because Darby called me and told me I was suspended, I need to get with Dr. Black to basically see how quick I could get back. Because my concern was I need to get back racing. What do I got to do here,
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, Dr. Black said, well, I finally talked to him. He hadn't even tested me yet. I got suspended and all that from Darby now, but when I first talked to Dr. Black was right after I got tested, which was Richmond, and he basically told me then, before he even checked anything, that because I called him and he called me back and he said, told him what I was taking like I was supposed to, like anybody, like he told us to, and immediately he said, oh, that's not good. A person your age shouldn't be taking Adderall. So okay, I won't take it anymore. No big deal, none whatsoever. And I said, and I was taking my Claritin D, along with it, just letting you know that. And he said, oh, now we got a problem. And this was Sunday night, and my sample hadn't even made it to the lab yet, and he's already got a problem with it. So I knew right then that wasn't going to be easy, and it was probably going to be a huge problem, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. That's why, when I decided to fight it was because I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I didn't, and I can sleep at night now, or I'd felt better if he just said, hey, we're going to assess you and make sure that you don't have a problem, and we'll go from there. I didn't even get that option. My option was from him was after that, it was positive. It was just downhill from there,
Yeah.
Can we say who specifically Dr. Black is? Was he the one did he work for NASCAR, or was he licensed from NASCAR to administer tests?
Right. He was licensed from NASCAR to administer the test, but also, that's another problem we had was he owned the lab. He owned Aegis Labs. He worked for NASCAR to do all the testing for everybody.
Okay.
And my particular case, he hadn't been testing it himself personally, hadn't been back there in the lab testing anybody's samples. My case, he did. He jumps back in and runs mine through himself, and then that's when it came up positive.
On the first one,
the first
test,
and I'm sure the second one too.
And so you're saying he was in there?
Yeah, he's the one that did the testing, and not only does he do the testing, but now if you do have a positive test, you got to go through him to get back into the road to recovery.
And forgive me for backing up a little bit, because we were trying to remember. I mean, the whole the drug testing program that NASCAR instituted was still relatively new, right? Like, was it a year? Were we a year or 2 years? Not even a year into it. So it's still relatively new. And I'm trying to remember, like, did they hand you guys a list of banned substances? No. There was none of that. No. So, like, you guys kind of went in doing random drug tests, but not knowing anything else. Is that right?
Right. So they said they said that if you're taking anything over the counter the way it's supposed to be taken, you'll be fine. But it was so, to be clear, like in my position, it was so vague. You were scared to do anything. You were scared to take any cold medication or any, because you didn't know, you didn't have a clear list, and you didn't know when you were going to get asked to test, because it was a random thing. They'd just call you in, and it'd be you and 6 or 7 other drivers, and they'd have you. It's still done the same way. They'll call a handful of drivers. You got to get over there in a couple hours, sometime during the afternoon. It'll be after practice or whatever. They'll let you know. You'll go up in this trailer, one at a time. You'll go up in this bathroom. Guy hands you a cup. He's got all the materials and paperwork and everything there, and you go in the bathroom, pee, hand it to him. You're just like so nervous because I never saw a list. They eventually, I think, did have a list that you could get, but I was just like, I just won't do anything because I don't want to look at this list. You're right. To the hell with that, right? It's like work. But anyways, it was pretty scary at the time, and I remember, I don't know when this was in the timeline of events, but I think this was after your suspension. We had another drivers meeting at Dover that felt like it was like a NASCAR brought all the drivers together and talking about the drug policy. And I remember in that meeting, he drove the Claritin D car. Carl Edwards. Yep. He stands up and he says, "What if we're taking Claritin D, like my sponsor? Like I can't take this." I don't really know what his question was, but he kind of, no one was going to ask any questions, right? That was one of them meetings where you're like, I ain't asking no questions. Right. I'm going to just get me in and out of here. I don't want to, I don't want to, signal a test, right? Get my ass in it, get drug in the trailer.
Straight to the test.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he raises his hand. Carl's like, what about these over-the-counter drugs that are on our race cars, right? What about these, And they really weren't clear on what to tell you about that.
Right.
And I think at that time we all were like skeptical about like what you were going through, whether NASCAR, whether this testing policy was legit, was genuine, were they possibly picking up Claritin D and Adderall and things like that, and not sure whether they were illegal drugs or was it this prescription, right? We weren't sure. Right. None of us felt safe, right? That none of us felt sure that this, you couldn't trust it, right? Because it was kind of all so new. And NASCAR didn't have a problem. There were other sports that were having problems, and NASCAR was reacting to that, saying, you know what, we'll have a drug policy. Because the media, so there was some other issues going on in other sports, and the media was like, well, what about NASCAR? Are there problems? How do you know? How do you know there's not any problems? You don't have a policy. Well, we'll have a policy.
Right.
And so they're like, boom, here's our policy. We got this new policy. And all the drivers were like, all right, well none of us taking drugs, right? So, no problem. And but it was also kind of vague as they were rolling it out.
Yeah.
And none of us really knew exactly the truth, because they wouldn't say they wouldn't come out and say, well, it was this drug. This is the drug that was in his system. Kind of, and it's similar, not to hog the mic here, but it was kind of similar to how they do the illegal, when a car's illegal, and it might be fuel or it might be a part or something, then they won't say. And so it gets people speculating, right? And that is exactly what was happening in Jeremy's case.
Yep. I mean, that's perfect right there. That's exactly the way I was seeing it too also, and then so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I took Adderall. I told him that day one, I took Adderall and to take Claritin D. So when it came out positive like that, and he hadn't even tested my sample yet, and he already had a decision made before that, I could tell, the way he was acting, that this was going to be bad, Yeah. And so when we actually sit down the first time, Dr. Black, and this will really get you, he's telling us, we sit down with him about 2 hours, him and O'Donnell and those guys, and he's telling us how, his test, he can't have any false positives because he's got all this new equipment and he's got all this lab stuff, this, that, and the other. And so he sits there and talks for 2 hours explaining all this stuff. When he gets done, my attorney asked him one question, and he said, what is the name of the chemical that you put in the sample that takes out the pseudoephedrine or anything that Claritin D's got in it as far as amphetamines and all this, that, and the other? But there's some kind of chemical you put in there that separates that from an illegal drug. And this is what Dr. Black said, just like this. He got quiet, and he goes, I know what you're talking about, but anyway.
Yeah.
And we never got that answer. So that's what we're up against, So I'm thinking the whole time, listen to this guy. He come in and personally tested mine when he just told us that he's got lab technicians all over the world that are perfect, but he came back to work, from being retired as a lab technician and tested mine.
Yeah.
So none of that made sense to us. And then when we got ready to get up out of the meeting, I didn't want to go through a lawsuit. I didn't want to fight NASCAR, by no means, and I knew what was going to happen if I did,
Mm-hmm.
But after hearing all that, I'm like, I had no choice, It was either, basically, go off wherever I had to go off to, for no reason. I'm going to be sitting there in a rehab somewhere looking around, everybody there, and just didn't feel like I needed to do that,
That's what I want to ask you, actually. Because you did have a choice. You had a choice. You're saying you didn't have a choice, but they said that there was a choice. I was always curious if there was a clear-cut pathway back to racing. And regardless of whether or not you wanted to do it or was ever considering doing it, was there ever a clear-cut pathway to say, hey, listen, you do this, it may take 6 months, maybe a couple weeks, I don't know, but you will be back in your car?
Yeah, no, I never got that. Here's what I got from Dr. Black. I said, how long and how quick can I get back from racing, basically? This was like day 1, 2, right after it happened. And this is Darlington the next week when they finally announced it. And he said, well, Jeremy said, it's like this. And this was a lot of the problem was him, and he said, depending on how you respond to the press conference that we're fixing to have, which I'm sitting at home, didn't know they was having a press conference about it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I had no idea. And he said, depending on how you respond, I said, so basically you're telling me if the way I respond to after the press, the press conference y'all are fixing to have to the media, that's going to be how long it's going to take me to get back. And he said, well, yeah, basically that's it.
So as far as he thought, all right, if he has a negative response to this,
right,
the media's going to come to you after this press conference and say, hey, Jeremy, what's your thoughts? And he said, whatever your response is to that,
yes,
is how we'll handle it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So nothing was going good for me at all about it. I'm sitting there going, okay, all this is happening, and then now it's basically how I respond to the press conference is how long it's going to take me to get through this, Yeah. And so anyway, we started looking at, because that the problem started with Dr. Black, for one, being owns the lab, doing my testing for some reason, mine only, and had my name on it, which is supposed to be just numbers, and then
that's right,
going down the line. So there's a lot of things that were wrong with it, and then so when all this started out, we started doing a lot of research. We had a lot of experts that were calling us saying this, that, and the other, but Dr. Black told me also that he did not. There's no way his company can have a false positive on my test or anybody's test. So that was wrong too. No false positives, which we all know that it can. He was doing the WWE at the time, I think, one of the wrestling deals, whatever. He was their administrator for their drug test, and he had to go to Congress at the same time we were doing this because of Chris Benoit. You remember the wrestler that kind of had roid rage, whatever he had, and basically Dr. Black was doing their testing and showed on his list nothing, never, no steroids, and then the guy goes off and then they find steroids all in the system. So, I mean, when all this started happening, we just started looking into it and it just looked like, some reason, that you got a guy over here just had roid rage, and you're telling the world that he's never tested positive for anything. Then you got a guy over here that's just trying to race, and now I'm positive for Adderall, and which eventually turned into methamphetamine.
Yeah.
And so just everything was just leading into that. Just something wasn't right.
Yeah.
It's the season of all the more comfort and joy at Cracker Barrel. You'll taste it in our returning holiday favorites: country fried turkey and cinnamon swirl French toast, sweet, savory, and so much goodness. And feel it in our Old Country store too, where you'll find can't get it anywhere else gifts for everyone on your holiday list. Come home for the holidays. Come to Cracker Barrel.
So, what point are you kind of like, NASCAR ends up getting all this thrown out because you signed the hard card agreement. When you sign the hard card agreement, every driver, every crew member, everybody signs this agreement. It basically takes away a lot of your ability and rights to defend yourself in a case like this or whatever, right? So you've waived all of your rights. So that's what the judges all eventually decided, am I right?
Right, exactly.
And so you basically just had to walk away?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it was the drug testing part of it. We won. The first time we went to court, we won that battle. We won really all of them as far as the drug testing went, but then eventually got to where they, after so long, I forgot what the time frame was, but it came down to where I just signed my agreement saying I couldn't sue NASCAR for any reason whatsoever.
When you say win, what specifically did you win? What was the case?
Or
what was being determined in the court?
Right, that there could have been a false positive. That they should have given me an opportunity to at least tell me not to do it. Basically,
So you're saying that the court decided that there could be a false positive. You're saying that's
that's
how.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And the judge awarded us my license back.
Really?
Oh yeah, and you know what that's going to happen after that. And I'll never forget that because Brian France was in the courtroom that day, and he was pissed. After the judge saying, okay, you can, basically go back racing again if you want to. It's up to you. And you know how that goes. When they suspended me and the judge, basically takes the suspension away, that it pissed them off pretty good.
Yeah.
Was it? So did you come back racing? I don't remember this. So your suspension was lifted. It was overturned.
Right.
And then did you return?
Well, I was going to. And then
what happened?
Then they show up at my house that was like on a Thursday or something like that. And I wasn't going to race that weekend. That weekend was Daytona. And we weren't ready to race anyway because we didn't know what was going to happen, And so then they showed up at my house on Monday at 7 o'clock at night. NASCAR and their new drug testing people or whatever they were, And I told my attorney, I said, all they want to do is just get another sample. My dog could have peed in the cup, and it was going to be positive, I'm sure. They own the sample, they own the lab, they own everything. So all they needed was to go back and say, look, Judge, I told you, look, it's positive again. So our thoughts were when that happened was, okay, at 7 o'clock at night, that's telling us that you don't want to, you think that all the places are closed where I can go get my own test done. Right, that's what you're hoping and thinking.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we went straight to the hospital, to Fry Hospital. My doctor had set up a drug test for Fry, and we show up there, and all this is documented too, by the way. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But so I show up at Fry Hospital and get LabCorp to do another test on me. This is like 20 minutes after they left. I went straight to the hospital.
Did you give them a sample?
Yeah.
And then you went to do your own sample.
Yeah, and went down my own just to make sure.
Yeah.
And learned that from the Tim Richmond deal too. He did the same thing,
Really?
Oh yeah. And so we go get our test done, and I couldn't wait. I was like, man, it's gonna be great here. It's gonna be a good thing here. So, and that was by LabCorp too, by the way. And so a couple weeks went by and we didn't hear anything. And I thought
from NASCAR.
Yeah, from NASCAR, not Dr. Black or nobody. So
what about LabCorp?
LabCorp, we got our results back, and it was zero, nothing in it. Because I'll tell you another long story too. I had not got my prescription filled for my Adderall because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna take it anymore. So you got to have a certain percentage of amphetamines in your system to make it into a methamphetamine somehow. I forgot what the percentage is. So I go to LabCorp, do my test there, and we get our results back. Well, our attorney said, well, let's send them back because there was nothing in it. And they had like a 500 cutoff, whatever, for the whatever it is.
Yeah, they had a grace period of
like milligrams or something.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Yeah, nanograms per milliliter or something like that. So So we got those as nothing. So they said, well, we knew what they were going to say about that. Well, they got a cutoff and we don't. So we had them tested again at a 0 cutoff, and then it showed nothing in my system again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so now I'm like waiting. Okay, this is going to be good. 2 or 3 weeks go by, I hadn't heard anything, and all of a sudden, boom, phone rings. It's Dr. Black, and he's like, hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing great, as I should be, And he said, hey, I just want to ask you first question. Are you still taking your Adderall? I said, no, I'm telling you the honest God's truth. I said, yeah, I'm still taking it, and I wasn't.
You lied to him.
I lied to him.
Yeah.
But I said, yeah, I'm still taking it because I knew what he was wanting. He had to know that to know the percentage of amphetamines to make it methamphetamines. That's just the way he had to know that. So I said, no. I said, yeah, I've been taking it, still taking it. So he said, well, you tested positive again, for amphetamines, whatever. And I said, well, I'm sure I was. When you come, I pee in your cup. I knew that if my dog peed in, I know, I pretty much knew what was going to happen, And anyway, so we waited, didn't hear nothing else about it. And all of a sudden, another press release comes out. Mayfield, tested positive again. This is like a month goes by before all this happened. And I thought, it was perfect. Now we got our LabCorp stuff. Well, he tried to convince the judge that LabCorp doesn't do the type testing they do. Some reason, somehow, right, and told him that LabCorp couldn't do test for what they test for and how they test and this, that, and the other, and so that just kind of just evened out, like a wash, I guess you'd say, as far as the judge goes. I'm not sure after that, but anyway, after he said I tested positive again. He said we should have had our B sample basically. We can go back up a little bit too on the B sample, and we said okay, we want to send the B sample to LabCorp. Of our choice.
Their B sample.
Right, their B sample they had, and they wouldn't let us have it, and we still haven't got it, So,
really?
I didn't get my first B sample.
Yeah.
On first test or my second one.
How much of Tim's case did you learn about or research during all this?
We dug into it pretty hard, and you heard about Tim Richmond. I'm sure you have. All the stuff he went through and everything, and his was a little different, mine, but word for word. It's probably so close to the same lawsuit as I had, pretty much. And then what's scary is that Dr. Black was when they had their testing doctor back then, for Richmond, whoever did Richmond's deal, later on come out and confess that he was basically told to make a negative test into a positive test. And
for Tim Richmond.
Yeah. And so they ended up firing him, getting rid of him, and that's when Dr. Black took over.
Okay.
So right after that.
Took over NASCAR's testing policy.
Yeah,
that's
testing
when they
policy.
brought Dr. Black in.
Yeah, but NASCAR admitted that they basically told him to do that. Pretty much.
So you're talking about all the evidence, or you got proof, and looking through researching all the things that are out there available. You have when you went to buy the Claritin D on the way to Richmond. That weekend that you got tested for the first time, you got video evidence of you walking in the drugstore and picking it up and buying it.
Right.
Little things like you have all of this documented stuff that backs up your version of the events. Right.
Right. Exactly.
So,
and we had the day that they announced I was positive at Darlington. You remember when we done the driver's 360 and all that stuff?
Yes.
The same people. Well, Tim, one of the guys that was a producer or film guys, whatever, he called me immediately. And this is like on Sunday night, and he said, hey, I want to come see you. And he's out in California. He moved in with us that day, so he was there like Monday, the next day, and brought his cameras and, another guy for a film crew, and basically lived with us for the next 45, 60 days, and everything was documented. And
this was a week after Richmond, right?
Right. Weekend after.
Now you got a guy that's a film producer, or at least a professional,
right?
And he was he the guy that's like in the Suburban with you when people are out at your gate and stuff, asking you questions when you're coming and going?
Yeah, that's him, and you know him well.
Yeah.
And great guy and great bunch of people. But so Tim lived with us, and from that point on, I started going every week, and getting tested. And I went to
on your own,
on my own, from LabCorp, and all with him filming it and all this, that, and the other. And he went with me everywhere. So I got tested every week. And, when my results come in, I got tested again, results come in, just kept doing that whole thing.
So you have these results, right? So you're getting tested. You got these results that say everything's clear. How do you use those in your argument?
Right.
What are you doing with them?
Well, that's where it all went bad. They just started saying, okay, well, he signed the hard card thing, all this went down, and just, just kept getting drug out, but I'm still getting tested. And now looking back, none of that meant anything. It just like
you getting a negative test or getting a clean test ended up being pointless.
Right. It really didn't mean anything. Even the one that I took 20 minutes after theirs meant nothing,
Did you have Bill Dill as an attorney at this point?
Yeah.
Because I would think that he's regarded as like a bulldog, right? Like he's like one of the best there is, right?
Yeah, but I've learned a lot about the justice system too, and Bill's like a great guy, and his whole firm did a great job. But you don't sue NASCAR and get a attorney out of Charlotte, you know what I mean? And I should have known that to start with, and I didn't. I did. I just wasn't paying attention,
Oh, you're saying that just there was somebody at NASCAR got to him?
Pretty much. I'll go and say that. I mean, he was friends with all of them. He's friends with Rick and Felix and all this stuff. And here I'm trying to, make NASCAR basically, and making them look bad or whatever the case may be. And just, I don't know, things just started happening weird and just got weird and out of the way. And so we switched it and got another attorney.
I guess I'm just like, if you have film documented proof and all these positive tests, that must mean something to somebody, right? Sure, not NASCAR,
right,
and maybe not the attorney. Although you would hope that if you're paying an attorney, that they would, know what to do with that. I mean, if your intention is to go prove your innocence on this somewhere, maybe it's not within the NASCAR ecosystem, but maybe somewhere that means something to somebody where, at least on a public way, we could go, okay, well, Mayfield does have this, and so NASCAR, what's your response to it, right? Like,
right.
Other than just going, he signed a hard card. Yeah, he's in. I don't care what it says. I mean, like, that doesn't seem like a strong defense if I'm them, and it seems like that there would have been something done more with that the negative drug test that would have validated you this whole time.
Yeah, they basically said that their test and LabCorp couldn't do the type testing they do. And we'd go in, and here's another thing they would say, because there's a lot of rules and regulations with drug testing in the workplace, pretty much, and you probably know that here with your employees or whatever. And I think it's like SAMHSA and there's a couple different organizations that keep this from happening. What happened to me, and so we'd go into it with that. Okay, this angle here we're going to take, and you have to follow these guidelines. You didn't do it, and NASCAR basically would stand up and turn and tell the judge, we don't have to do that. We don't have to follow any guidelines. We do what we want to do, pretty much, and that's what they told them, and then the judge wouldn't say anything, and we leave and come back a month later,
Yeah.
And that just kept going on and on like that. And every time they stand up that's something that they had to deal with, they would just look at the judge and go, we don't have to.
So at this point, let's say you're, 3/4 of the way through all this. You have to probably be realizing that your opportunity to have a future in the sport is gone.
Right.
You don't have, your ability to fund and can run and control your own race team is gone.
Right.
So at this point, I guess fighting the battle is a little bit easier because you've gave up all of those things, right?
Right.
But when do you decide that that's no longer even worth it?
Right.
And when did you just say, man, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
This war with NASCAR, and I'm just going to move on.
Right. Well, we kind of, once we started it, you kind of got to finish it. Try your best, and so we and it was tough, man. I'm telling you, it was hard because I knew what was happening. And I knew that, the first time we went to court, that I'd say we won that one. Brian France was in there, and Helton was there, and all the guys. And I told Mike, I was like, I don't want this, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to work something out here. I don't want to have to say anything about it because NASCAR wasn't ever bad to me, It's been great to me, and I remember Mike going and saying something to Brian, and Brian looking at me and going, it's not about you. This ain't about you, just like pissed off, and he wasn't able, he didn't even want to talk about it. He didn't want to say, hey, let's figure it out.
Yeah, figure out a way.
Yeah, anything. All he had to do to me is just say, Jeremy, don't take Adderall again, and let's go racing. And I told him they test me 2 or 3 times a week whenever you want to test me. I'm willing to come in every week and to be tested.
Yeah.
Nothing was good enough. Nothing was going to satisfy them. And that's when I knew I was like, well, now I got to ride it out.
There's one I want to ask you about. There's one other thing, because I know that like this is so drawn out that there was so many back and forths. But there was, if I going back and looking at the timeline, there was I think NASCAR had agreed to do an independent drug lab, and then they called you out. This was on July 6th in 2009. But then there was a delay where they were saying that you had 2 hours to get to the lab to do the test, but it was 7 hours later, and you said you were lost, you couldn't get there, and they took it as, if I'm remembering this right, they took it as well, this is a tactic by somebody that doesn't want to be tested. What is your explanation on that?
My explanation was I was at my race shop when that happened, and when I come back out, we had a meeting, come back out and had a message from some girl, hey, you need to be so-and-so somewhere to be a test. And that's over in Kannapolis where my race shop was. And so I'm like, test, kind of blew me away because I wasn't racing that weekend anyway, which that's the Monday I was talking about, the July, whatever the day was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
July 6th.
Right, so I called my attorney, and he said, just sit tight, don't do anything. Just don't do nothing, because he didn't know what to do. We're back and forth. I sat tight and didn't do anything. Well, then he calls me like 3 or 4 hours later, and said, hey, can you be at, now I'm already on the other side of town, heading home, He said, hey, can you be at so-and-so in Kannapolis? I said, man, I just left my race shop. Now I'm already over here. Is there anywhere we can go over here? I'll call you back. Well, between all these call you backs and this, that, and the other, I'm just going straight home, heading home. So that's when I started getting home, and that's when he said, okay, they're going to send somebody to your house. And that was at 7 o'clock at night, whatever, sent them to my house. I just didn't go to the one. First of all, I was late calling the lady back, not because I was hiding anything, because my attorney told me not to, and then basically I started going home, and then, it'd be like 45 minutes, hour for somebody else call you back, and I said, good, just be at my house, and that's when they showed up at my house at 7.
But wouldn't you wanted to take this test? Like it seems like that was if it was an independent lab,
it wasn't an independent. No,
lab.
It was still Dr. Black.
It was still Dr. Black.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to say that I would assume that vindication seems to be closer now than at any point because of this test. But you're saying no, it's not an independent test. Dr. Black was still administering it. So were you skeptical from the the moment you got the call? Then
yeah, from the time I got it, and my attorney was to start with, and then when they sent somebody out, they were determined that they were going to do the test. That's when we set up the one for 20 minutes later. That's when I went to LabCorp 20 minutes later and got tested.
You went to LabCorp 20 minutes later.
That's all the same day that you're talking about, hospital.
Got it. Would your attorney not want to be part of that test? Or would he want to be there?
You would think so, And,
you would think so, right?
Yeah. And,
hey, get over here. I'm going to take this test.
Right. And that was Bill deal that was going on. And that's what got me, too. I was like, well, all they want to do is say, okay, all I had to do is pee in a cup one more time. And I knew it was going to be negative no matter what the situation. You know what I mean? Only thing I can do is go to another lab and prove that it wasn't, because I knew what they were trying to do, and this wasn't a cut and dry deal about just drug testing. This turned into be the judge awarded, me, basically I go back racing, basically saying, here's your license back, and you can imagine what would happen.
It got personal.
Yeah, it got personal, and then, everything started going downhill from there, but I thought that when I go to a hospital and get LabCorp to test me, and it's all documented, watching them come to my house, watching me go straight to the hospital, walking in and coming out, and then seeing the results. Okay, now we're covered. Now we're good. There's no way they can do this, and they did.
You said on talking about it getting personal. You said on another podcast that you got during all this that you got a phone call from Brian's ex. He was going through a divorce.
Brian Francis' ex.
Yeah,
right?
Brian Francis' ex called you, her and her attorney, to give you some information that they thought you'd need to hear.
Right, and that's another reason why I stuck it out. Because then I found out what was really going on. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, if that seemed to me like they would just go test and everything would work out. And, it all
seems to get it over with.
Right, right? It all seems right.
Get it done.
Right, exactly. And so we get a call. I'm not sure what the timeline was. It's probably, I don't know, probably a couple months into it, something like that. And we got that call, and I certainly don't want to drag her back into anything here, on the show or whatever, but she ended up being a witness for us.
So there's a person that became a witness on your end. What was the information that this person had to share with you?
Right. So we got a call from her to come meet with her, and so Shane and I went and met with her, not knowing anything, didn't know what the deal was basically. And she started asking me questions. It was like, well, Indy and at Indy in 05 or 06, whatever it was, did you get black flag for no reason and this, that, and the other? Like, yeah, I think, because that's when Ray and I finally quit. Basically, I got fired after that. And so I started thinking back, and then she said, well, so-and-so didn't like you calling out the owners, basically. I didn't really call out Ray. I just talked to the press one day, and it came out on paper that I did, but I didn't call him out, And so she starts saying all this stuff that her ex-husband, which was Brian, didn't that I was nothing more than a laborer. None of the drivers were. We're just laborers, and his owners are the important part of this whole deal. And the laborers can come and go, And he didn't like me calling out Ray, basically,
And so that gave you the opinion, that gave you more confidence in the idea that this was personal.
Right. And right, exactly. And that's when
because the question is like, I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I think the question is like, well, everybody would think that this is, a black and white issue. You pass, you fail. Mm-hmm. There's a professional structure to this, that a process that it works out, right?
Right.
And your belief is that as you got deeper and deeper into it, that it was a personal vendetta against you.
Right.
And then this, when this person calls and gives you that information, it just really gives you even more confidence toward that idea.
Right. And that's what happened. Everything's just started happening, in that type situation, or just, I guess you'd say, as far as building my confidence, thinking, okay, now it makes sense, now that this makes sense, whatever. But, she sat there and told us that she would testify and do whatever we needed to do.
Did that happen?
Yeah, it happened.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She went to court. Yeah, went to court with me. And but then what I should have realized, but I didn't, because at that point in time, I really didn't care what Brian thought of me and, anything else. I was mad. I was pissed off and probably done some things, said some things I shouldn't have said, during that period.
Yeah. She
kind of comes on with us, and we go over and spend some time with her, and come to find out it was a personal deal between me and Brian, basically, And so then it started making sense that's why he wouldn't, he wouldn't ever want to talk to me. He never wanted to work it out, and he didn't want to hear it. It was just going to be, this is what's going to happen, and they're going to, now that you sued us, that we're just going to make you kill your credibility and just wear you down to nothing, basically, and that's what happened.
I was going to ask you, but half hour ago, I was like, what was your relationship like with NASCAR before all this happened? Mm-hmm. And I'm still curious about that. Like, would you, because, ultimately you're going to get to the question that you just asked, Dale, and that is, what would be their motive? Why are they trying to end you? I mean, certainly there's been other drivers that have done more egregious things that would cross paths and ultimately be personal. So why Jeremy Mayfield?
Right.
So we get to that, but first let's go ahead and did you always spoke your mind. Mm-hmm. You had some run-ins with, I don't know if you'd call them run-ins. I mean, like you had relational things with Ray Evernham, as you've already alluded to, and maybe some other people that you raced with. But like, what was your relationship with NASCAR before all this started happening?
I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't really have a relationship with them. I wasn't one that was just going to go to, all Brian's parties and during speed weeks. I went to several of them, then I got tired of going to them, so I didn't go to any of them. And I just did my own deal, I just wanted to race, and as I was coming up, I thought that's what you did. You show up and you race, you're 100% racer, and you just do whatever you got to do to race, and looking back, that was probably my downfall of my whole career, pretty much, until that came about, was just I just want to race, and I thought it was, you run bad on Sunday, you come in on Monday, and everybody gets together and you work on your car and you make it better, and you know what I'm talking about, and it turned into during our meetings, if I said anything as a driver, and you know what I'm talking about on this deal, if I said, okay, I think it's this, this, and this, well, I'm going to piss somebody off at the table. It's going to be the engineer, the tire guy, or whoever is going to be mad, and that would create problems with me and the race team, and as far as the way I handle things, and so relationship-wise, I had problems at Penske with me and Rusty, and I had problems with Evernham's with me and Ray and this, that, and the other, and I realized that, and I realized that was a problem. But I also realized that I kept thinking, well, you just keep doing what you're doing, which, kept moving on down the line. But it didn't work out that way.
Well, okay, so with all that backstory there,
and there's more to it than that. I was trying to.
But if we summed it up, you don't like playing the politics of the sport. There's politics at any workplace. Frankly, you don't. You never did that. Didn't do it well. Didn't have any interest in doing it.
Right.
You spoke your mind in team meetings, and it would cause rifts within the team. So now that this stuff started happening in 2009, before you talked to, or before you had a witness that said that this was a personal vendetta, did you have any suspicion on what a motive would be to try to take you down the way they were doing it?
I felt like when I left Ray's, left Abraham Motorsports, that, and I stayed away for a little while trying to find another ride or whatever. And when I went back, I just felt like I was blackballed. You know what I mean? I just felt like before you can go anywhere and get a ride with this guy, whatever you need to do, and then all that just stopped. You felt
like a pariah in the garage.
Yeah, well, not really to some degree. Yeah, I just felt like something wasn't right again because, I couldn't just go call Ganassi and go drive one of his cars or somebody, and that's what led to me, starting my own team. Basically, but I didn't understand why or whatever. I just knew something wasn't right, and I was probably getting blackballed somehow down the line, whatever happened on that deal.
So I think, for me, when you said the things about Ray being an absentee car owner, right? So,
and his picture was on the Chicago Tribune, whatever. I mean, it was a full, Ray well enough, The next day it come out in the paper. It was a whole page of Ray.
They took your comment
right
and made this big thing about it.
Right.
And it buried you.
Right, exactly.
And now
and especially if Ray, what I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Ray especially, but anybody would have taken that the way he took it. But I think for me, we're going to get all into that, but how all that went down, but. For me, I feel like that every once in a while, you couldn't control what was going to come out of your mouth.
Right.
Every once in a while, you kind of would have these, I always enjoyed being around you, but every 6 months or you were going to be pissed off about something or have something annoying the hell out of you, and the media was going to catch you at the right time.
Right.
And you weren't going to. You were going to say something that was going to eventually, as we find out, be harmful to you, right? And where you might be saying something in sarcasm or cracking a joke about Ray, hell, I don't know, I don't see him.
Right.
That becomes
right.
That becomes this big front page story in a big newspaper, and then now it's a big problem.
Right.
And then now you've made not only Ray mad, but you've made this. In Brian's eyes, made the sport look stupid, made pissed Ray off, pissed Brian off.
Right.
Now you got all these enemies, right, that you've created, and that steam. Now years, steam rolls down the line. There's other examples of you doing that when you're going through this battle. Now I'm not saying you're not warranted to say what's on your mind, but there were moments when you would get in front of the media and say, I'm gonna do whatever I need. I'm going to do what I need to do to make this right. I'm going to figure out a way to get through this, and get on the other end of it. Everything's going to be great. And then there were days when you would say, "Them guys, they're going down. They're wrong.
Right.
And this is personal.
Yep.
And then the next interview a week later might be, we're working through it. Me and NASCAR, we're going to get it figured out.
Right.
We're going to do. Everybody's on the right page.
Yep.
And then and I feel like, and even me, like I've done things in my career, said things that I thought were tongue in cheek or I thought weren't a big deal that ended up being freaking big because it pissed off the wrong guy.
Right.
And then you got to spend 6 months to a year repairing that.
Yep.
He's pissed.
Yep.
Right? And he's in a higher position than you, and you're screwed till you fix it. And so I know how easily that can happen, but I feel like that was a big part of really.
You said it right. And I realize that.
That pushed you in a certain part of the garage. It put you in a corner, right?
Yep.
When you went, and this is before the drug stuff.
Right, exactly.
This is right at the end of the Ray deal, and you're trying to bounce around, and you couldn't find rides, right? You couldn't put deals together.
Right.
So you end up eventually this argument with NASCAR over those positive drug tests just goes away, just fades into the background. Is that right?
Yeah.
You
Eventually,
just woke up one day and that was no longer a part of your life?
Right. Well, no, I just didn't wake up one day. It took a while to get there, but yeah, it definitely, that's what happened basically.
It just all goes away.
Yep.
Just like that.
No, I didn't just go away just like that. I mean, it was tougher than you think. I mean, you're talking about the end of it or how?
Yeah, the end of it.
Yeah, the end of it. Just basically, the judge said, we're just throwing it out.
See y'all later.
Yeah.
And your attorneys said, we are at the end of the line.
Right.
And you went home.
And he said, we can appeal it, and we think we can win the appeal. We're pretty sure we can win the appeal because that shouldn't have held up, as far as just signing your hard card saying you can't sue for any reason. And they were really confident that we were going to win the appeal. But even at that point, winning the appeal, I'm already tired of it, and I'm already sick of it, and going through all that at one time. And even if we won the appeal, what are we going to win?
Yeah, your career is in the trash can.
Yep.
For lack of better words.
Yep, pretty much.
So are you what is official here? Are you suspended officially today?
Yeah, and
you're suspended
basically
indefinitely.
Yeah, and I've tried several times. Trust me, after it was all over with, to go back and call the guys in NASCAR and not Brian obviously, but and say what do I got to do to get back? Because I wanted to run some short track stuff, that maybe NASCAR sanctioned track or whatever,
K&N or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I said okay, you got me on the NASCAR stuff, not worry about the Cup stuff, and now for me to go back, my road recovery is like road recovery first, and then I forgot what all it was. Like 5 or 6 different things on my list I have to do. Pay for all the legal fees, on their end,
yeah.
and then
from starting back from 2009 or something. Or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
you'd have to go back and pay all their legal fees.
Yeah.
How much how much ballpark do you think you spent already on legal fees?
Oh, millions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they spent twice that or 3 times that. I'm sure.
Okay.
And so my deal is like, okay, do that, and then have a press conference or whatever and put out a press release saying that I lied about everything.
That's what they asked you to do.
Yeah, that's what they asked me to do. To go back now and say that, and I'm like, well, that wipes that off the board, I don't really have a way back, that I can afford to do,
Yeah. Does it bother you? So let me ask you this: when Brian phased himself out of the sport, did you think maybe I could connect to some people that maybe there's an opportunity for me to get through?
Yeah, I did, and I think the new president, Phelps or somebody like that, I tried to talk to him, and there's times they won't call me back, or they'll put me over here to somebody else, and I get the same answer, as far as what do I got to do to get back, and the sad thing about it is you're talking about Brian, Brian, myself, and Ray. All right, none of us are doing what we love to do anymore. He's not, Ray's not, I'm not. So where did it all ended up for no reason, all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And it's just uncalled for, really.
So did you guys reach some sort of finality with NASCAR? I mean, at some point there was a raid on your house, right? Was this all part of? Do you lump this all in together with that, or was this a separate deal?
It was separate, obviously, but when you get the discovery of everything and you find the first 5 inches of paperwork, it's all NASCAR stuff, that they sent them.
What do you mean?
For example, I don't know where you want to start on all this.
I don't know. Well, let's start here. Let's start here.
Let's
start here real quick. And I don't know how long this goes. I'm just saying, start here. There was a raid on your house.
Right.
What was the raid for, and what came of it?
Well, it was a month before the appeals court. Because we appealed it. We appealed NASCAR's decision, and felt real confident that we were going to win. That we were going to win the appeal. Okay, and then that would be another thing that would be, to try to sum all this up and put an end to it or whatever. And so a month before, we're getting ready to go to scrapyard. I'm doing my copper deal I was telling you about, and all of a sudden, a guy came through my shop, that wasn't supposed to be there on my property, that I didn't want there. And he was a local guy that came in and. Always trying to sell something, or
he just stopped in.
Well, no. This is about. He stopped in about.
He would come through every once in a while.
Right.
He was just trying to sell things.
Yeah, weed eaters and speakers.
All kinds of weird shit.
Just one of them guys. Yeah.
And he would just randomly come and go.
Yeah.
And how did you meet him in the first place?
By him doing that, just coming in, showing up at my shop.
You buy this?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And trying to be friends and just trying to hang out. I'm sure you know a little bit what I'm talking about. That you get that a
random
lot.
people just show up,
right? Trying to be a friend or fan or whatever. And so I found out what the guy was all about. So I said, "Look, man, you don't need to come back around here. Just you're not welcome here. Just stay away, basically."
And he had some stuff on your property that you wanted him to get.
Yeah, exactly.
A boat or something.
Yeah, a truck and a boat and this, that, and the other. And that's when I found out that the boat was probably stolen and everything else, And so I said, "Look, you get your stuff and just go on and stay away from here," pretty much. Well, all of a sudden one day, I hadn't seen him for a month or so, 2 months. We're getting ready to go to the scrapyard, and here he comes just pulling in with some dude in the truck and just walks right by me, right straight through my shop, And I'm like, damn, that's kind of weird, that he knows not to come in here. Now what am I going to do? I got to do something to make it, let him know I don't want him here, And the other guy sitting in the truck, and I'm already thinking it's weird that he showed up and just walked right past me into my shop, And so about that time, we walk outside, and the guy's sitting in the truck on his phone. Like, man, you need to get this guy out of here. I don't want him here, da-da-da. And within seconds later, the guy gets out of his truck, and all I hear is, "Here they come." Well, now I know what here they come means. You know what I mean? It's like
they coming.
When he said that, it was like there's people coming out of the bushes and out of the sliding in vans, and I mean it was crazy.
Really?
Yeah, I had a long driveway, and
like Scarface. This is the second Scarface reference.
Oh yeah, well I'm thinking this. So I'm seeing all this going on, and my shop at that point in time was right across the street from my house, or not across the street, kind of like a little field, but I could see it over there, and I had a cabin on top of the hill, another cabin place, whatever. Well, now when he said, "Here they come," it was all blacked out, just AR-15s, just coming from everywhere, on the floor, da-da-da, and all this stuff, and everybody's, there's a couple of my guys that helped me, we're all, on the floor and everything else, and then I get up and I look over at my house, and it looked like I've never seen nothing like this in a movie. I mean, there was like they were covering themselves and running side by side, and they had the big thing that opened, that slammed the door open, and I'm sitting there watching all this, and everywhere I look, there's somebody blacked out with guns on, and blacked out cars and this, that, and the other. So probably like 90 people, 80 or 90 people. Yeah, oh, just like that,
Did you your pants?
I about pissed in for sure, but that's something else too, I'll tell you. But so all this going on, I'm looking over my house, and my wife she's getting ready to go to work. She worked up in Hickory. And I'm thinking, wonder what she's thinking, And so at the time, like a couple of seconds in my mind, I'm thinking, man, there's something big going on here. There's a killer loose, or somebody's broke out of prison or something. They think he's here, or something bad's going on. Because nobody told me at this point in time. All we know, there was no sheriff, nothing on their suits, nothing, just all black, camouflage in black, faces covered. I mean, you can imagine what that would look like, Eventually, a guy come to me and said, after it all settled down a little bit, and they're still everywhere like ants running around, and shows me a search warrant. So we had a search warrant to search the property, looking for a stolen piece of scrap metal, and like a plate. I'm telling you, there's like a 12 by 12 or 14 by 12 steel plate. Well, I had like probably $30,000 worth of copper on my rollback we're getting ready to go sell, and I'm thinking, steel plate. And I said, well, I got all kind of steel in my shed out there, because y'all got steel scrap everywhere. You know how that goes on the race team. And I said, y'all go look for it if you want to. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but this is kind of big for a steel plate, what they're doing here, And so it just started, getting worse from there. But anyway, that was a long day for me, and something else I had to deal with after that. And that was a month before our appeal,
So there ended up being 15, 25 counts of felony counts from that raid. And there was they said they found drugs in a safe and multiple pieces of equipment or something that was stolen, and ended up being this really long list of charges against you. Mm-hmm. So like how that's not just bad luck.
Right.
Like, how does that happen?
Well, I still have no idea what some of the charges were. I had 28 felonies after it was all over. I went to jail 5 times after that. About every month I was going to jail for that raid, that one particular raid. Well, actually, they come back a week later and did it again.
Raided you again?
Raided me again. So, then I had turned myself in. Then a couple months go by, well, I got to turn myself in again.
Turn yourself in, you go into the jailhouse.
Right, being indicted, going to jailhouse.
Did you spend the night? Did you stay? No. Did you have any time in jail?
I sat there for a little bit, but I got to get out. I was out pretty quick as I went in. But still had to go, and they indicted me for this, for 4 counts here, indicted me for 5 counts here, and this is all separate times I was going. And
what's their evidence?
Well, when it was all said and done, I bought a auction speaker system that you can, like an announcer and a mic or whatever, to do auctions. I did auctions from that boy there that I was telling you about, and it was supposedly stolen. So I got possession of stolen goods, basically. And after all the 28 felonies went away, this, that, and the other. But, 4 counts were like 10 years apiece. I'm sitting in front of the judge, and he said, this is a minimum of 10 years apiece on this, and 4 of them. That's 40 years,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, man, and it was a larceny of trailer / aircraft.
What is that?
I have no idea. Still to this day, I have no idea.
What trailer aircraft?
Yes, / aircraft,
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
what about the drugs?
That was only 4 of them.
What about the drug charges?
Well, the drug charges were like this. I'm sitting there and watching all this going on in my house, and raiding it, looking at everything, pouring all the cereal out of the out of the boxes, and just tearing my house just apart, basically. And so I had a safe in one room. I had a bunch of guns. I collected guns forever, and this, that, and other. So they wanted me to open my safe up. Nowhere on the search warrant said we're looking for willing to get in your safe or search your safe or anything else. They're looking for a stolen piece of scrap metal and stolen goods or something like this, or stolen piece of plate or whatever it was. We go back to my safe, open it up, thinking, I haven't done anything wrong. Again, okay, what's this for? A piece of sheet metal or plate, but you're pouring my cereal out of boxes in here, looking through all my books, So we walk back in there, open the safe up. They said, okay, now you need to go back on the front porch with your wife, who basically when they was raiding my house over there, they grabbed her and threw her down. She just got out of the shower. Got her in handcuffs, face planted to the floor for no reason whatsoever. She's not going to shoot them or hurt anybody. And they're going to kill my dog. He was barking, so if you don't shut your dog up, we're going to kill your dog. Okay. All this is going on, just one thing after another. And so anyway, they open the safe up, send me back outside. I go outside, and she and I were sitting on the porch, and I'm just looking around like this, and just seeing everywhere I look, there's somebody taking pictures or something, just big stuff going on. So probably 15 minutes later, they come out, and no, it's probably 45 minutes later, they come out, and one of the detectives did, and he said, I need to see you for a second, so I walked over the side, and he had his hand like this, and you can see like like plastic on the other end of it, just barely a piece of plastic sticking out of his hand. He said, you know what I got here in my hand? I said, no. He said, we found meth in your safe. I said, you didn't find meth in my safe. And of course, when you're sitting there at the time, you're like, there's no meth in your safe. So I'm going to say, well, you didn't find it in my safe because there ain't no meth here, Yeah, there is. He said, yeah, we found this. And all I could see was just barely something sticking out. And he said, but we don't want to take you to jail, Jeremy. We want to make this right for you, whatever, He said, we need you to call, one of these people on this list and get them over here, and we'll want you to do a buy on them or whatever they do.
What does that mean?
Right. That means, for me to call whoever's on this list, if I know them, they come over here and sell me drugs and they arrest them.
Okay. So they wanted you to turn and be an informant.
Right. So, and while
they show you a list of names.
Show me a list of names. I read the names. I was like, I didn't recognize nobody on the list. I said, but if you want me to call them, I will. If you want me to call them, but I'm telling you right now, I don't know any of them, and I don't know they're probably going to laugh at me. Laugh
wild.
At you. Oh, yeah. So he said, well, go sit down. He said, and we'll get back with you in a few minutes. And he said, think about where you can buy drugs at and who you can buy them from, and if basically do this buy deal. So I go out front, I'm sitting there like this, I'm thinking, what in the world do you what's going on here? I'm thinking too that I ain't got nothing, there ain't no drugs, I don't know what they're talking about. They want me to do a buy and this, that, and the other, and I had no idea, about any of this stuff, you know what I mean? And just spun out pretty much. And so at that point I'm starting to get a little bit mad, thinking, what do you want? What happened to the piece of scrap metal y'all come here to look for? You're in my house, tearing my house apart. And so he comes back to me and he says, did you think of anybody? And at the time I was kind of pissed off, and I said, I couldn't think of nobody. I honestly couldn't think of where I could go have somebody come over there and sell me drugs while this is going in progress, And I said, I don't know what you want or what you want me to do, whatever. And I said, oh, I just thought of somebody. He goes, and when I did that, he goes, oh, really? Who is it? Gets all excited. And I said, I probably shouldn't say this, but I should go ahead and say it. I said, because I was pissed, because I had a good feeling where all this was coming from. I said, probably the NASCAR garage area would be the only place I know like this. Just being mad and just being pissed off at NASCAR and this, that, and the other. And probably should have never said that. And when I said that, the other guy said, is he not going to work with us? He said, I don't guess he is. And I'm still thinking, what are you going to do? Because I know you didn't find that in my safe, whatever you got in your hand. And then that's when he said, well, lock him up. So when I said that, 5 seconds later, boom, my hands around my back, and I'm going to jail,
Yeah.
So you're saying, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but I'm just going to state for the record here. You're saying whatever he held in his hand was not meth.
No, and it didn't come from my safe, whatever was in his hand.
And there certainly wasn't anything in your safe.
No.
You're saying that. And they got in your safe how?
I let them in my safe.
You let them in the safe?
Yeah, they wanted it in my safe. I was like, okay, now you walk in there and had a gun room and had a bunch of guns in it, and it was, and it was something that was in my safe was I had a bunch of coins and all the stuff that I'd put in little plastic wrappers that you put coins in. If I found a silver dollar or whatever, I had all that stuff in there. So I had baggies in there, and it was clearly you could see what they were for, and but there was no meth in there, no drugs in there. I didn't even have to open the safe up if I didn't want to, and I did anyway. Well, then they sent me to jail after that, and it was just like, I keep going all day on all the details about it, but whatever. But so that's the first time I went to jail, and basically the guy, while he's filling the papers out to put me in jail or whatever, we're down there, and he goes, another guy come out and he said, what'd it weigh? He goes, well, basically the weight of a baggie, 1-point-something grams, and so they wrote down 1-point-something grams of whatever it was, but the guy, I heard him say basically the weight of the baggie. So I'm assuming that, well, it was the baggie that one of the baggies I had in my safe, not realizing whatever. But so anyway, the judge let me out. I didn't had to go to jail and all that stuff. So.
Okay. How many counts were there? 28? Something like that?
Yeah.
28? Of the 28, you're saying that there was complete innocence in all 28 of those counts?
No, there was like 2 counts of possession of stolen goods that I admitted and told them I had,
You had possession of stolen goods, but you're saying you bought them.
Yeah, I bought them.
You bought them, but they were stolen.
Right. Just like a pawn shop or anybody do, I'm sure if somebody around here's bought something that's stolen, somebody might not know.
You don't know where the stuff from the pawn shop. Usually, you just assume it is stolen. Actually, right?
Right.
So I know that for months and months and months that you wouldn't accept a plea deal that had any felon charge on it. And did you eventually have to do that, or because I know you wanted to, you're obviously trying to keep that off your personal record, right?
Right.
So I'm finding that kind of funny because you get raided, all that happening, right? Your world's exploding all around you, right? You're just like, oh my God, what's happened? How did I get here? Right. How do you decide to keep turning away the plea deals that they keep sending you?
Right.
And like, I ain't accepting that.
Right.
Tell them no felony charges. Tell them no felony charges. I'll plead to anything that ain't a felony. And you just went on and on.
Yeah, they went on for 2.5 years.
Why are you not like just trying to get this off your back?
Right. Well, because for one, I didn't want to be a felon. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't.
But if you pled guilty to the felony charge, I think you would have still not done any jail time.
No. This was. Yeah. Oh yeah, this was my first time.
So how do you get to decide that you're going to be the one to tell them what you're going to accept?
Right. I just was like this. I was like, for one, it didn't happen all 28. Didn't happen all at one time. Say a month or two after that, they'd indict me again because I didn't accept one right here.
Yeah.
So now I'm indicted for 5 more. Okay, then another month and a half goes by and 5 more. Then 3 more, and the different counties too. Different counties were coming aboard. So, that made it hard for me to fight all this. Okay, well then at the end of that month I was telling you about was my hearing for our
for the appeal
and
the NASCAR drug test.
Exactly. And so meanwhile, when we started getting our discovery, you get discovery for everything they're accusing you for, whatever, basically. Well, there was all kinds of stuff on top of it that was just all NASCAR stuff. Well, why would that be a part of my case now? This had nothing to do with NASCAR, so why is NASCAR, basically all their stuff, information coming in on this, And so then we go to appeals court, and of course the first, 30 minutes they stand up and their attorneys are telling the judges, there's 6 judges up there, whatever it is, that Mr. Mayfield just got arrested for methamphetamines and gun charges and just one right after another, and how are you going to win that, you know? And even though they shouldn't have based it off that, it had nothing to do with it, it's totally separate. But, the judges are listening and going, yeah, how are we going to rule on that, So basically we lost our appeal, and then it was over after that as far as the NASCAR deal.
Yeah, but you're fighting these federal charges from the raid for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Right? All the while, which you eventually pled guilty to a couple charges and no jail time.
Right.
And all the while, you're losing all of your financial security. Your house got destroyed.
Yep.
You end up having the land gets, I don't know whether it's seized or sold. This guy, they did a control burn on the house. The fire department comes and the property owner just wanted to farm the land. So all of this goes away. This is your property. You talk about that little cabin.
Right.
You got your shop. You just getting your teeth kicked in.
Right.
Right. And you had some trouble with the IRS because obviously, you spent all this money on your trial and court dates and everything else. Was there ever a moment in any of this when you were just at the end of your rope? Like, man, I mean, I can't imagine going through that and not having some moments of how in the hell do I get up the next day and keep going?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of those, and I want y'all to know too. I'm not sitting here trying to defend anything. I know I got myself in a hell of a mess, at that point in time throughout all of it, and. But yeah, there was a lot of days I got up. I didn't know what to do, and it seemed like on Friday afternoon, if I made it through Friday, Saturday and Sunday were like finally like a weekend. No raids, no going to jail, no going to court. Made it through that week. And that went on for a while. And it's amazing how you feel on Friday when at 5 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Nothing bad has happened this week.
Nothing's happened this week. And but yeah, it was definitely tough, and there was times that I mean, I got mad, I stayed miserable and mad, this, that, and the other, but yet I knew that the 28 felonies, you'd asked me that a few minutes ago, how do you tell them that you're not going to accept a plea? Well, it's the same thing, I'm like, I know how it all happened, the way it all went down. And I got arrested 5 times. Puts me back in the media 5 different times. Mayfield arrested again. Mayfield arrested again. Mayfield, I'm doing.
This guy keeps getting arrested.
Like you keep getting like 5 different incidences. You're saying there are 5 separate charges just off the same
rate. Yeah. But they would just keep throwing it on me like this, Yeah. And I guess thinking that at 28, it would eventually end up where I'd have to, serve for 2 or 3 of them anyway, And so I started getting pleas, and I was like, basically saying, I'm not playing to that. I'll just go to court. I just want my day in court. And when you prove to me that I stole an aircraft or a trailer or whatever it was, we'll go from there, But there's never no proof of nothing. I didn't get caught doing anything. This is just all charges based on allegations from this one guy, and that's the guy that showed up in my shop that day. And so, I didn't understand it either again, basically. And now it looks like I'm sitting there going, oh, I didn't do anything, just like the NASCAR thing was, It just put me in a bad situation again that I didn't know how to get out of it other than I'm in the middle of it. What do you do? I had no choice again as far as, okay, I'm in the middle of that like you're saying, and the felonies just keep coming. It ain't like I can just go, okay, wait a minute, I'm done. I'll just back out here and call it a day,
So your wife has been with you and still with you today. How you talk about her being in the middle of the raid and in the middle of all those situations and, being exposed to all of these difficult situations.
Yeah.
What kind of conversations do you guys have in those moments? Like, right when she gets up off the floor and she learns that you're going to the jailhouse, the next time you guys get back together, I mean, she's still with you. She's obviously in your corner. Talk about her, because I don't know that a lot of relationships and marriages would have survived all of this.
Right. And, that she's been my biggest supporter through everything, really, and the day that this happened with NASCAR, she said, you're going to fight him, aren't you? Like, fight for this. And I said, yeah, but I want you to realize what that means. I knew what it meant. You know what I mean? Yeah. I knew what was going to happen. You're not going to win that battle, but and I told her that day, you can ask her, I said, everything you see right here, we're going to push it all in. It's going to be all in if we do this, And she said, you got to do it, and she's the one that's with me all the time. You know, she sees me every day. She knows I'm no different today than I was when we first met, or when you and I first met. And your dad and everybody else. And so she's been with me, seeing everything that goes on, and she knows that how it all trickled down. You know what I mean? It was just happening in stages, all one at a time like this, and you could see right where it was coming. And the way it was going. Yeah. And if I'd went away for 20 years or whatever, then they wouldn't have to listen to me continue on talking either. You know what I mean? That's the way I looked at it too. And so I looked. I'm not blaming them or saying it's any of their fault. NASCAR side of it, but it would have certainly got rid of me for a while. And but she's been there and seen it all, and she's seen it with her own two eyes. And probably the greatest thing ever happened to me was her.
I'd have to say so. Yeah.
Yep. And then we're still together today, and we've even through all that, with our land and our house, that all happened at a bad time too. It was 2008 when the market fell, and we had the place sold before the drug test happened. We were going to sell our place, and it fell through because of the 2008 deal. When that happened, the real estate market just dropped, and everybody knows what happened after that. And then that put us in a bad situation because we had all our money sitting there, and so everything just kind of happened all at one time that set us up for the fall.
Yeah.
Nobody serves up country like Cracker Barrel, but nobody, and we mean nobody, serves the country like our military veterans. That's why Cracker Barrel is once again proud to show our ongoing gratitude with an exclusive military discount. Cracker Barrel Rewards members who are veterans or active duty military receive 10% off in-store purchases. Thank you for your service. We look forward to welcoming you soon. All the more, all at Cracker Barrel.
I think the property part, the house, the land, and you lived near Dad, and I think you like me and a lot of other people kind of emulated other drivers' dad by owning property,
right.
crafting your land and making it what you want.
Right.
You put your little dirt track on there, whatever you're doing. We all have done that,
right.
And having that taken away from you or losing that, however you want to look at it. Kind of how did you pick yourself back up, and where are you now
right.
in terms of where are you now
right.
in terms of sort of rebuilding your material life?
Right. We're and it's still today, we feel the effects of all that. You know what I mean? Just
still living.
Still today, yeah. And some parts of it, but we've just kind of just. Eventually, you just put, you can't worry about it, and there was a lot of things I just had no control over, couldn't really do nothing about, just had to ride it out, and that's pretty much what we've done, just kind of rode it out for a while, and I tried to race here and there, different things, and you know how it is, nobody was going to give me a chance to come back or sponsor or anything because of all the stigma and all the stuff that goes along with what I went through, so we just been fighting battles like that the whole time, and but she and I are still as stronger than we've ever been, because of that,
Are you still trying to clear your name? Do you feel like you're still out on a quest to do that?
Yeah, I feel like I am.
So, I mean, the reason I ask is because I find there's some irony in this. Like, there's irony in the fact that, they'll ask, why would you not accept a plea deal? Well, I think you were sort of, because if you didn't feel like you did it, you didn't want that on your name, on your record. You didn't want a felon on your record. And yet, everything I've heard from almost the time you sat down is that you've sort of been an outcast this whole time, right? Like if you were out to try to clear your name and defend what you feel is right, you still ended up almost on an island, right?
Right.
Isolated from everybody else. And so I see irony in that, but I'm also wondering, like, at what point does this not even become important to you anymore? Like, it's what's done is done. Does coming on a show like this just regurgitate stuff and bring back more headaches and heartaches for you, or is there still a chance that you think that you can go clear your name and you can change their minds if they feel like you were guilty of all these things and there's still light at the end of the tunnel?
Right. Yeah, I still feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, and obviously, when you and I talked to each other a month ago or whatever it was. That's the hope I've been looking for, you know what I mean? And not because coming on the show and bashing anybody or anything like that. It's just being able to to be back, and say, hey, man, and talk to the guy that I raced with forever, and I haven't been able to do that, and I probably could have, but it still wouldn't have been the same, and like you said, when you go, it is like you're on an island by yourself, because you feel like that nobody's there, you can't really reach out, you don't even want to reach out because you know what they're thinking already, and it's kind of not fair because if you look at, and obviously we've done a lot of research on a lot of different things. If you look at just the drug part, let's say the drug part, okay, you know how many people was on or tried drugs in their lifetime, pretty much, around the United States. It's probably 100 million or something like this. Okay, so you start looking at it like that, you start looking at statistics going, all right, even if I did or didn't do it, in their eyes, what they're seeing, I've been judged as, that, okay, you're the bad guy, you're the one sitting out here on your island by yourself, and just stay away from him because Brian and him are arguing and we don't want nothing to do with you, and it's really not fair for that, because I'm no different. I just hadn't had a chance to talk to anybody. I hadn't had a chance to talk to you,
Yeah,
that's
and,
right.
And I didn't get a chance to say, hey, man, this is what happened to nobody, and every time I tried to the media, it would turn into, first thing I was Mayfield, who just got his house raided, and all this bunch of bull, and then I have 3 little lines from me saying, "Oh, I didn't do it," pretty much, that's kind of to sum it all up. And I never had the opportunity to say it, to really just tell you what happened, and I just been, there again, I'm not trying to say, okay, I'm the saint here by no means, but what I'm trying to say is that I've definitely felt like that I just haven't had a chance yet,
Okay, and then do you wish? Oh God, I got so many questions, Jeremy. Sorry. There's a couple things. One is, I think everybody would want to know this question, the answer to this question. I think we've all asked it, not knowing the scenarios. Like you just unpacked and laid this out. Without all of that information, those of us on the outside would just be like, why didn't he just say he did it? And then, because racing is ultimately the only thing that matters, right? Like you just, you could have been back, you could just race, and even if you didn't do it, just go through the motions, do it, and be back. The way people's memories are, they'll forget about it in 6 months, and then Kyle Larson certainly got back redeemed. There's redemption processes, there's redemption stories, a lot of them, but you never seemed interested in the redemption thing.
Right.
Do you regret that? Do you wish you would have just taken that road?
Well, I thought I did. When I said, yeah, I'm taking Adderall and Claritin D, I thought I did the right thing. And, as well as I did, the way that it was all laid out, that's what I was supposed to do, And then it just kept getting worse. It was like, not on my end, it was on their end. There just wasn't no working my way through this, If I just said, okay, road to recovery, okay, I'm sitting on the race team, I'm done anyway, because of the timing situation. This day and time would be different,
It is different. That's right. That's right. There was no actual official road to recovery program.
Right, exactly. But we're sitting there with no list, and all this stuff would go wrong. The way they test us, we walk up in the trailer, and just for example, I'll give you another good one. And this is why the whole time I'm thinking, sooner or later somebody's going to see that this wasn't right, and
see the inconsistencies. And
and like the day I was tested, from the start, I didn't know how to be drug tested. We always went and got our physicals and did it then at the beginning of the year. Well, we're sitting in the trailer, like you said, sweat pouring off all of us, walk up there and the guy hands you a cup, and here, he's got paperwork scattered all over his desk and everything else. I'm not thinking anything about it. Go in the bathroom, and he goes, wait a minute. So I turn around, open the door back up, walk back out. Let me see the cup. You need to wash your hands first. Okay, go in and wash my hands. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Go back out. Here you go. Here's your cup back. He hands you the cup, and then you go pee in the cup.
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's all wrong. And I found that out after it happened. See, I didn't know that at the time.
It was also new, right?
Right, and I'm not thinking anything about it. I didn't think twice about it. And so then you go back out and you pee in your cup, and then he's, got all this stuff going on. It's just a mess. What I seen the day I went in there. And every test I've taken besides their test has been the right way of doing it, which has been LabCorp,
Yeah, LabCorp's a reputable I mean, that's where I go if I'm getting blood. Yeah.
Well, don't go there because according to Aegis and Dr. Black, that they can't do the testing. Well, they're like the DOT does,
I think they're fine. They do good work.
Right.
LabCorp.
and I don't want to throw it back on him either, but it is. There's a reason why I thought I was going through controversy and all this stuff, but if you go back and look at him, he was going through a lot worse than than I've ever went through and still going through it,
Yeah, but I still just don't understand why Dr. Black had so much jurisdiction when it was all said and done.
Well, I do. I mean,
okay.
Well, I can assume. So when NASCAR brought in their policy,
I think I know what you're about to say.
They never thought that they were going to need a drug policy. They never, and there was at that time no basis for having one. There was nothing going on that would say, you know what, we really have a problem here. And so they weren't in the business of having a drug policy. So they basically brought a guy in and said, we don't know nothing about this shit. We're going to leave it to you, right? And everything that happens with any drivers or any tests or anything, you're going to have an answer for it. And we're going to defer to you. And they defer to Black on everything, right? Whatever he says, man, he's the pro, he's the expert.
Yep.
And so he was emboldened with his power, right, to be sort of the voice of everything drug policy in NASCAR at the time. That was my opinion.
He was like a Fauci during a pandemic. You mean
right?
Similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then also not only was just for the testing, but if somebody tests positive, you got to go back through him. Which now makes him I'm not sure what you call that guy, but
then fair enough. So then, but Dr. Black, like you said, had his own problems, and then eventually, as Dale said earlier, Brian France found his way out. So wouldn't you think that at some point, if at some point now with those two people out of the picture, somebody would step up and be like, somebody that would step up and other than Brian France's ex-wife, would step up and say, okay, there were some wrongdoings done here, or somebody that at least could admit what you just said, Dale. We were new at this. It's not what we ever signed up for, and so there were probably mistakes that were happening. Somebody, but nobody's really done that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the I think after all this time, I don't really know how you feel, Jeremy, about trying to. What can you fix? What can you make? What can you gain at this point? I honestly think that I don't know. I don't know what happened, right? And I don't know that I really care,
right?
When it was happening, it was scary for all of us. To see you go through that, it made every damn one of us nervous to get our name called.
Right.
To be taken into that trailer. And because we didn't know what was right and what was wrong. We didn't know whether you were telling the truth or whether NASCAR was telling the truth. We're racing for an organization and we would hope that they would have everything right, and that there's no way that they could mess this up. And so I think I have carried those opinions all the way up until this moment right now is I don't know the truth. I don't know that it really matters to me. I don't know what all went down with the raid and why that happened and all the details. And I just know the Jeremy Mayfield that I know.
Right.
And that's good enough for me. And, I always enjoyed racing with you and never once did I ever get a weird vibe from you, right? When you typically get around people that are doing things the wrong way or have some personal guilt down in there, it comes to the surface.
They look the part.
As much as we're around each other and when you made the playoffs, we spent some time around each other, and I never once, and even today, like when I saw you at the racetrack the other week, you're the same guy.
Right.
So,
and I appreciate that, and the thoughts like that, and I felt the same way as far as I can't think of one time I thought that somebody in the garage area, somebody on the racetrack was doing anything.
Yeah.
I really didn't because we're around each other all the time. And that's when the drug policy came about, and at that point in time, I'm like, why would you even, you had a good policy going was if somebody obviously looks like they're drunk or on drugs, you do something about it,
Right.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we told you guys that this was going to be a 2-part episode. That was the first part of the Jeremy Mayfield episode on the Dale Jr. Download. Part 2 coming next week. Mike, this has been a fun listen so far. I hope everybody will tune in to the to the final second part of the interview. But pretty fun. We were able to announce our new partnership with Joey and Connor and the Speed Street podcast. Got a lot of cool things coming out here at Dirty Mo Media, man. You and the team are creating some amazing things.
Thank you for that. We also launched Next Level, a YouTube series with Andrew Curlin. So a lot of fun things. I also want to say one more thing. We talked about the Ultimate Experience at the beginning of the show. Fall Bristol Ultimate Experience is going on sale this week. So we were doing 3 of them this year. We've just completed the second one. Bristol Fall will be the third.
Night Race.
Bristol Night Race, Ultimate Suite Experience, Dirty Mo Media tickets. You can go to dirtymomedia.com to buy them.
Do you have a guest in the suite? I know you had Jordan Taylor this past weekend.
I haven't got that far yet.
Oh, boy.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Well,
you got something in mind?
I'll be working the booth.
Yeah, I know. I know you're busy.
I won't be able to come.
Yeah.
I regret that I didn't come this weekend, honestly.
A good time was had. Not that it wouldn't have been a good time with you, but it was a good time.
Apparently, I wouldn't have been able to tweet, so that would have sucked.
You would not have been able to tweet. I'm telling you, man. You got to get on them. Get them some Xfinity X5 or something. I don't know.
Anyway, hope you guys have had a great week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week. Till then, take care. We'll see you.
Next week on the Dale Jr. Download.
Putting the bumper to Dad. Nobody did that.
Right. And then as soon as I crossed start finish line, I thought, man, what in the hell am I going to say about this? I knew it was coming after that, So I come back around and he's doing the flip me off and setting the other, and he's driving beside me. I knew he was pissed, I mean, the whole front straightaway was covered with bottles and beer bottles, and I thought, man, what am I going to say, So I get out, I just want to rattle his cage a little bit, all cocky and everything, Fans were throwing stuff, booed, everything. And I had to sneak our way out there. I had to ride in the back of a rental car and just, huck her down the back of it like 2 hours after the race just to make it out there, And so I had my buddy up in the top of the truck. He's, prepping our tires, our tire guy.
In the lounge?
Up in the top of the trailer.
Front?
Yeah, up in the front. And I remember coming down to practice, and I'm thinking, man, we ain't got a shot, And I'm smelling everything you smell coming out of the back of the truck, I'm thinking, man, we're in trouble.
You can smell the tire prep.
But he puts our tires on. We're rolling through Tech, and I'm pushing the car through Tech. I remember looking down, I'm thinking, oh, my God. I mean, the Goodyear's coming off of it. It just didn't look good,
Yeah.
And here comes Elmo Langley, and he's going by
NASCAR official.
Yeah, NASCAR official. And he's smelling everybody's tires and stuff, and I'm thinking, man, what do I do?
I'm going to tell you, when you asked him about what John Andretti's car had on it when it won the pole the next year, you know something. You know some creativity.
Oh, of course he does.
Yeah, I know. So you're not going to tell us anything?
But I'll tell you one thing that I heard. I'm not for sure, but I heard it.
Yeah. Friction between you and Rusty, like always there and kind of making things harder than they have to be. You won at Richmond, which put you in the playoffs that year.
That was the first ever chase, I believe.
The first chase.
Yeah. I remember that was dramatic.
Yeah, it was like a 12th round knockout. Then you make the comments about, I can't tell you what Ray thinks because I don't see him.
Seeing Ray,
Right.
Ray used to be on top of all that stuff. He wouldn't let it happen.
Yeah.
And if the 9 was running bad, he'd be on the 9 box. Here's something else that happened that I was going to tell you the deal. And,
sure.
I made a big mistake.
Something about a picture.
Yeah, I made a huge mistake.
So the last race with Ray at Indy, you got black flagged on, what the hell is that?
Bringing in, they're going black flag. Pulled in my pit stall, and nobody come over the wall. I'm just sitting there on the pit row like this by myself. We're just sitting there, nobody's saying nothing, quiet. For 3 minutes, it seemed like everybody's whoa, go by, and I'm sitting there, not the first crew members come over the wall. Then I hear, Ray said just park it. I just got out of it and walked off, and that was the last time I was sitting.
You got out of it on pit road.
Yeah, but that whole black flag deal is a whole nother conversation.
I know what I think you're insinuating, but I'll just ask you, what would be more to the black flag?